yield the mic to you, sir.
All right, thank you, Admiral. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. It is really a privilege for me to be able to take part in this and representing the folks across the way in Congress. We do have a handful of us. I think we have 6 naval aviators currently serving, and hopefully we'll get a few more in this next election cycle. I look back over some really neat experiences I've had in my life, and I can honestly say nothing has ever come close to the years I spent in carrier aviation. I loved it. I loved every single bit of it, and I do miss it. I honestly miss the smell of JP. I've got a picture that hangs in my office of a dust recovery, and I can smell the JP. I can feel the wind blowing on my face, and when I think there's a stressful day on the Hill, I just take a look at the picture and think there's people out there dealing with real stress. But I always wanted to be a naval aviator. I knew since I was 5 years old, and I know that exactly because in 1969, when the astronauts returned from the moon, there was a ticker tape parade in Houston, Texas, and the Blue Angels flew F-4 Phantoms. And I knew right then that's exactly what I wanted to do. But fast forward all those years later, I graduated from the Navy in '86. I tried to preserve my eyes while I was there, so I didn't study too hard to keep my pilot billet. I made the top half of the class possible. Top Gun came out the week that I got my wings, and that was the most exciting time. 1986, orders in hand to Pensacola. The first thing we did when we got there, of course, we were issued our leather flight jackets and our Ray-Bans, and we went from there. So loved it, but when I look back over those years, there are really 3 key things that I'll look back that really stand out to me. First of all, I love the fact that there was a spirit of competition around everything we did in naval aviation, whether it was trying to compete for the top hook in your RAG class or fighting to get the line awards for the top, the top 10 awards, or the greenie board. God, no one wanted to look at a bolter or a no grade up on the line period for the whole time. So everything was measured and done. We were always competing. Next would be the teamwork. I remember it being said one time, I guess we had one of our battle group commanders said during the Soviet era, we could have given a carrier battle group to the Soviets back in those days, and they could have taken a decade and still not figured out how to use it. But the precision teamwork that was required to pull that off, and Admiral and I were talking about night MCON recoveries, things we don't do anymore, throwing flags or flares in the wake and finding our way back aboard without talking to anyone. Just really great stuff to make that happen. I actually have done on the civilian side a few presentations about the flight deck. When you think of the coordination of the grapes, the ordies, the purple shirts, the shooters, the handlers, everything that goes into making that happen and doing it well, there's nothing else like it. It's an incredible symphony, and corporate America likes to learn from that. I think finally, the lesson of just, there's nothing like the U.S. aircraft carrier as a tool of diplomacy. Obviously, we talk about, the presidents always want to know where are the carriers, but it's also a matter of the value of showing the U.S. flag around the world. A lot of what we do in the Navy isn't seen by folks because it's over the horizon. But when we park the carrier out there in some port, I always had a lot of pride after Liberty and going back out to the ship to look out there and just see this big behemoth out there on the horizon. And those countries love to see that. They also love for us to spend our money in port. But to train with them, there's really nothing else quite like it. And we refer to the carrier as 4.5 acres of sovereign U.S. territory. That's true. Another Air Wing commander of mine, Joe Capalbo, if anybody remembers Condo, he used to like to say, when you pull up at the big fat gray Winnebago and park it in somebody's front yard, they're going to sit up and take notice and pay attention. So the carrier is, I think, very special. I'm excited to see what the next century holds for it, and I'm just proud as can be to be a tailrotor. Thank you all for allowing me to be a part of it today.